podcast produced by Conquest, the youth ministries at Trinity Baptist Church in Manhattan. I'm Francisco Rolis, the director, and you are listening to a training by Chris Valletta, former NFL player, author, and entrepreneur. I received a yellow card in my box from, it's one of those visitor cards, and it had the box for youth ministry checked off. So contacted Chris, and then I had a chance. I just ran into him at the fellowship hall. He gave me his card. I asked him what his elevator pitch was. He said, "Not really elevator pitch." And then I said, okay. So I took it home and I went online and I started to read about this guy. I thought, oh my goodness, I can see why, because there's not really a way to put that into like 5 seconds.
I probably need to.
And I won't prod you too much because I saw that you actually worked as a consultant for elevator pitches. So anyway, I saw the premise of his book, and I picked it up and I read it through in just one day. Like I couldn't put it down. So that was my way of complimenting him and contacting him, asking him to be here. I meet him on Sunday, and then on Monday I said, "I read your book. Will you come to our youth group?"
Right.
And so he said he would, and so he's here to talk with us about teamwork. He has a very storied history in a number of different teams that he's been a part of and built. And so one of the things that we've been talking about here is making this youth ministry the best youth ministry in New York City for the context that we occupy. And there are no other youth ministries that I'm aware of in New York City that have the type of diversity that we have, nor that I think employ the type of innovations that we do, and that have the kind of leaders that we have. And you've been speaking with Myra and Janet for a few minutes now. You can tell that this is the kind of leaders everyone hopes to have on their team. So just love to hear from you about teamwork, team values. You can share from your book if you like, which is called Teamworks, which I recommend to all of us. In fact, Chris has been very kind, so I think I'll have one to give to each of you that you can have and read as well. But Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
Please take it away.
Thank you. It's interesting. I've never done this format before.
Recorded
2 or 3 people in a room, and I'm recording to speak to other people that might listen to it. So I'll try to keep that in mind as I talk. So first of all, thank you. We have not been part of this church family for very long. My wife and I live at 64th and 3rd. And we have been victim to sort of church hopping. And with a 2-year-old, you start to really sort of identify, what's going to work and what isn't in terms of, your church plans. We found Trinity basically because we had started looking for preschools for our little guy and saw that there was, that was starting here. And so we looked in, and then we came to a service and realized that there was a really effective sort of children's, program set up on Sundays, and then went upstairs. I sat in the pew and heard an amazing message from a guy that did not sound like he was from New York. And so I saw Pastor Boyd and I Googled his name right after the service. And there were 2 things that stuck out in my head. Number one, that he was really active, that he was from Texas and really active in Young Life. Young Life is how I came to find Christ when I was 16 years old. And number 2, he went to Texas A&M, so he was an Aggie, which is where I graduated from. So immediately I said, "This is a sign from God. We need to be here." And we've absolutely loved it ever since. And so I'm really, I'm excited and equally honored and humbled to even have the opportunity to meet you and be here. My background, I'll spend 3 minutes there, a few minutes on a couple of other sort of tidbits of info, and then I'll let you guys get on. But grew up in New England, was raised primarily Catholic. My family moved to Texas when I was 15 years old. I was heavily involved in sports. But in Texas, when you come in and you say, you like to play every sport, and you're also 16 years old, and at the time I was 6'2", I think I weighed 280 pounds. you don't really have a choice other than to play football. Texas sort of ranks up there with oxygen and Jesus in terms of priorities when it comes to football, right? So it was interesting how that dynamic happened. So I was thrown into football, and I think by virtue of some of the past performances and experience I had in sports, I was able to do pretty well. Took football through high school, received a scholarship to Texas A&M University. From there, I played in the NFL with the Tennessee Titans, the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Came out of the NFL and started my entrepreneurial career. Launched a real estate company in Texas that got some pretty cool success. And it got the attention of some local press as like, hey, this former football guy turned entrepreneur. And that article found its way in the hands of a New York City real estate guy named Donald Trump, who told his producers of his TV show, The Apprentice, to reach out to me in Texas and say, hey, let's interview this kid to be on our TV show. So the Apprentice organization and I came in contact with each other. I made the show. I was on the 4th season. I set out with 2 goals. One, obviously I wanted to win, but the second goal is if I didn't win, don't get fired first. That was like my number one. I did not win, but I definitely achieved my second goal. I was not fired first. I was fired second, which is pretty unique. But I was fired for what I believe is ultimately an amazing set of core values and principles that I hold true, which is my sort of team mentality. Anything I'd ever done in life was pretty much based and born out of the performance and psychology of what I learned as an athlete. I was able to transition that well into the business world, and it was great. But what I really wanted to speak to you about, and anyone else that's listening, but it's okay, I get it, it's good, were you in the service today where Pastor Boyd talked about kind of going from ordinary to extraordinary? He said, a leader and someone who's extraordinary finds a way to go from here to there, which is so true. I mean, it sounds so basic, but taking that premise, as leaders and as people in positions that have positions of influence, how do we go from here to there? And I like that topic because when you start to talk about here, well, before you can even start going to there, you kind of first have to know, well, where the heck are we? And when you really know that, then you can start to build a plan to go to wherever that destination may be. So I kind of want to spend a little time on that piece of it. And the best way, especially, Francisco, is what you just told me about wanting to become the best youth ministry in New York City because you're the most diverse, you have the most extraordinary leadership, and you have, kind of sounds like you have the infrastructure to be everything that you want to achieve in New York. So ultimately, if that's the destination, if that's the there, quote unquote, and you start to evaluate where you are today, what can we do as a collective unit in order to put ourselves in a position to start to take the steps necessary to be in that final place? And I boil that all down to the absolute individual. And it's not just the individual leaders. It's not just you and servicing your group or you servicing yours and you sort of kind of trying to organize everything together. It's not just the leadership. It's actually the kids. The kids that are basically under your wings and your tutelage actually play a more important role and position in achieving that ultimate goal of being the best youth ministry in New York City, primarily because they're your ambassadors. They're going to be the ones that are out there telling the world about what they're doing, what they've seen, what they've heard, what experiences they've had. So equipping, if we're again evaluating that, going from here to there, and we're in the here section, we're trying to say, okay, where are we? And we start to evaluate that deeper. You really start to take away layers and get into the point where you start to become very introspective. This isn't about the leadership giving qualities to the kids in order to sort of grow the base. This is about empowering the kids, which is much different. So you're in a position of almost to turn the tides. The absolute number one way that I've ever been exposed to how to do that, how to empower the people that are in major positions of influence, which are those kids, came out of teachings from a brilliant sociologist and scientist by the name of Simon Sinek. If you've never heard of him, I highly suggest you read his material. It's it's literally fascinating. But I'll tell you a little bit about some of his teachings. But a pretty unique story, and this is going to get at the crux of why it is that I think and how we can empower kids. My dad once told me there are two types of people in this world. The type of people that speak to the person next to them on an airplane, and the types that don't. And if you've ever sat next to someone on an airplane that loves to be a chatterbox, I think you understand what I mean. There are two types of people. There's the ones you sit down with that say, oh, so what do you do? So, blah, 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 and they want to have a full conversation. You kind of just want to put your headphones on and watch a show or read a book or whatever. My dad, who's he just retired a couple months ago. He was a big-time CEO for a multi-billion-dollar company for a long time. He told me that, anytime someone asks me what I do for a living, I always told them I sell life insurance, because he said no one wants to talk to anyone that sells life insurance. And so I always thought that was funny. My dad's in the hotel business, and
I was going to say accountant.
Yeah. So as soon as he says I sell life insurance, they basically stop listening. Mm-hmm. But here's the question: what if you really do sell life insurance? How do you speak in a way where people will listen? And not only how do you speak in a way that people will listen, but they'll actually be on the edge of their seat, right, glued to every word you're saying and wanting to spread that word. Mm. And I think this is a quality that I think is so critical, because this is sort of the elixir and the piece that you can pass to the ambassadors, the kids. And it's actually something that every single person can do. Everyone has the ability to do it. It doesn't require any specific set of skills. It can actually happen in an instantaneous moment. And it has nothing to do with how you answer, or what you answer the question with, and everything with how you answer the question. When someone says, what do you do? So if you sell life insurance, how do you answer that question in a way that someone will be completely engaged with what you're doing? So the analogy I like to give is in golf. Have you ever played golf? Do you ever play golf? Anyone ever play golf? No. Okay, so if you were to play golf, you'd be better than I am, because that's how bad I am at golf. So, but you've seen people play golf before, and you've probably seen a lot of pros hit perfect shots down the fairway. I'm the guy that hits the ball 200 yards in the wrong direction. That's me. I very rarely hit a perfect shot.
I never hit the ball.
I was about to say,
still trying to hit the ball.
Swinging,
you just swing
and it's still there.
Swing and miss. That happens to me too. Which is a great metaphor for life. But anyway, so I'm out playing golf one day, and I'm with a guy who is a really good golfer. He's amazing. And I hit a slice that went like literally 200 yards in the wrong direction. And I'm slamming clubs. I'm just mad at the ball. I'm mad at life for being out here and having such a bad performance. And he was like, "Whoa, Chris, slow down. You're not that far off." And I was like, Ryan, did you see the ball that I just hit? It was 200 yards in the wrong direction. I couldn't be more far off. What are you talking about? He said, "You're not 200 yards off. You're 2 millimeters off." And this was interesting, because this was a lesson in perspective that I'd never had before. And he was right. I wasn't hitting the ball 200 yards in the wrong direction. I was hitting the ball 2 millimeters in the wrong direction, because the way if this is the ball, the way my club face hit the ball, all I had to do was make a 2 millimeter shift. And as soon as I make the strike at the right angle, that ball goes straight down the fairway. And it was an interesting perspective, because it allowed me to say, I don't have to look at the result. I first have to look at why that result occurred in the first place. So in putting this in context, if the result is we want to be the best youth ministry in New York City, then you have to start looking at the why behind every individual involved in that process. So coming back to our life insurance example, so my best friend in the world, his name is Todd, sells life insurance for a living. So in having this conversation with Todd, if Todd were to sit on an airplane next to my dad, and Todd were to say, or my dad were to ask Todd, "What do you do?" or vice versa, and Todd sells life insurance, does Todd go to the result? Does he say, "Oh, I sell life insurance," or does he go to the reason why he sells life insurance in the first place? And this is the lesson in perspective that all of us can learn in order to sort of bestow this upon the ambassadors of this ministry. And the lesson is this: before you can get to the what, you first have to get to the why. So in flipping this conversation, and this is why it's so easy to be able to speak in a way that everyone can listen and understand and want to sit on the edge of their seat, and answering the question, what if you do sell life insurance? Well, if I ask my best friend Todd why you sell life insurance, what do you do for a living? He doesn't answer, oh, I sell life insurance. Mm-hmm. His answer is, when I was 17 years old, my father, who was the breadwinner in our family, died of a massive heart attack. He was the breadwinner. He was the rock of our family. And he died and had no life insurance. It literally crippled our entire family. It put us into bankruptcy. We lost everything. It was a miserable experience. And from that moment, I set out to make sure that that misery that we felt as a family never occurs to another family again for the rest of my life. So I sell life insurance. Totally different, right? Mm-hmm. So what the reason Todd is so successful in selling life insurance, and he literally started with that methodology in his insurance brokerage, is because he makes this emotional connection to his personal why, which then other people feed off of that passion, and they then want to become empowered themselves and participate in that why. So as we start to think of our end goal, our end result, and what it is that we want to achieve as an organization, as a youth group, as a ministry, we have to start becoming very introspective and get right to our personal why. The question, you don't have to answer this, but why do you do this? Why is it you do this? What are those reasons? What are the reasons you get up every single day and, either go to work? I imagine you have jobs, you have a life outside of this ministry. So you start to compartmentalize your whys, and you start to realize what is taking priority, what are the reasons, why you operate and sort of develop and grow. And you begin to understand what it is that you can be doing in order to make the greater impact and the end result that you want to have as a ministry. As the leader of the youth ministry, it's the most critical thing, is to empower the people that are connected to the group. So we have middle school girls and high school girls. And how many girls in each? You have
about 10 in each.
10 and 10. So there's 20 ambassadors in those two groups alone, and there's more represented from the people that aren't even here. I think you said 40 in total. And ultimately, hopefully, hundreds, right? Thousands, because you want to really build something incredible. Before your ambassadors can understand and relate to why it is that you're their leader and why it is that you're doing what you do, you first need to understand it. And before you can understand it, you need to understand it. Before you can understand it, Keith needs to understand it. And it just needs to build and build and build. If everyone operates from this introspective platform first, why do I do what I do? And then focus on the what, your entire perspective needs to change. And by evaluating that why and giving priority and understanding your priorities in life, and it's I would argue your why is not just to be a great youth group leader. You want to be a great spouse. You want to be a great brother or sister. You want to be a great employee. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but you got to sort of break each one of those components down and figure out what is your 2 millimeters. What 2 millimeter shifts can you make in your own operation, your own life, that are going to make that end result crystal clear to everyone you come in contact with. Because the people you come in contact with, the kids, are the people that are going to make you the greatest ministry in New York City. And ultimately, that is the most important. That's the end result. That's what you want to achieve. It's the most important thing you could focus on in terms of your professional and your altruistic work. I mentioned Simon Sinek at the beginning. There's a really cool story that he told about why, and I'd love to share it. Who in the room, of the three of you, has ever heard of a guy by the name of Samuel Pierpont Langley?
No.
Never. So this is awesome. It's even better that you've never heard of him. So Samuel Pierpont Langley at the turn of the 20th century was the the scientist of the era. He rolled heavy. His friends were Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison. Samuel Pierpont Langley was basically the smartest guy in the room everywhere he went.
Any connection to Pierpont Morgan?
No,
Okay.
no. It's a good question though. But at that time, powered manned flight was like the .com of today. It was everything. I mean, how many people you hear about entrepreneurs today that are creating new apps and trying to become the next Facebook? And I mean, that's what figuring out how to fly was back then. Samuel Pierpont Langley was the #1 scientist identified by every major professional in aviation, in exploration, that he was the guy to figure it out. And he had support. The War Department, the U.S. War Department, granted him $50,000, which at the time was an enormous amount of money, to figure it out. He had the best engineers, he had the best scientists, he had the best of everything that he could possibly have. And if you asked his why are you doing this? Why do you want to figure out manned flight? His answer was, because I want my name next to powered manned flight. I want to be the person who invented this thing. I want that. I want that accolade. Okay. A couple 100 miles away in Ohio, 2 brothers who owned a bike shop, who had no college degrees and $1,000 to their name, in the Wright brothers, invented powered manned flight. So how does a guy with all of the support in the world not figure it out when 2 bicycle shop owners who aren't even college graduates, and nor did they have any college graduates or engineers on their staff, figure it out? There were no scientists, there were no engineers, there was no press following them, they got no grants. They had $1,000 in their bike shop and they figured out how to fly, and this guy didn't. What's the difference? The difference is that the end result, getting man to fly, was the end result. The reason, the 2 millimeters, the golf ball analogy I gave you earlier, was that this guy wanted the sort of self acclamation, or he wanted the accolade.
Wanted the glory.
He wanted the glory.
Selfish.
And the Wright brothers wanted to change the world. They knew that through this invention, they would change generations upon generations. And that's what motivated them. That's what brought every single one of their compadres and amigos out every single day to try to figure this out. It's what got them, it's what made them not sleep at night. It's what made them, basically fabricate, parts from the bike shop in order to fix repairs from every time they crashed. They didn't have the New York Times following them. They had no money. They had no resources. They had nothing, but they did it. It's because every single person on that staff understood their own personal why. They were all in it because they knew that what they were working on could change the world. When they got off the ground and flight took place, Langley, instead of saying, wow, that's amazing, that's an amazing invention, I'm going to spend the rest of my life figuring out how to improve upon it, instead of doing that, he quit. He died broke, and no one in this room knew his name. So what do we take from that? The lesson is, we want powered manned flight. We want to be the best ministry in New York City. You might have the resources, you might have the money, you might have the support, but you might not. So how is it that we figure out how to become the best and the greatest and the largest and the most successful and the most impactful youth ministry in New York City? And what is our why? What is our reason for doing that? And when you get back to sort of my athletic upbringing and the team mentality, this is what separates champions from winners. This is the difference. It's an individual mindset coming together for a common purpose, and a selflessness that permeates throughout the organization, and a mentality that every single member of the organization knows their personal why and the organizational why. And I don't know what that is for this particular group. I wish I could just point at it and then everybody would be great. But this is the beauty of the exercise. And as we start to figure out, how do we go from here to there? And you evaluate, well, okay, first, where are we? This is the best place to start. is, what is my why? What is our why? What are the kids' whys? It'd be a great exercise to put them through. And through that exercise, you start to find some commonality and a common vision, and then the plane takes off, and then everything else changes. So that's all I got. I didn't want to be, I'm happy to talk and answer questions and dialogue, but, when you asked me to come here and speak and talk to you guys, that's the first thing that came into my mind. You're trying to build something that's really special, and you have 40 kids that should be just as empowered as you in order to make that happen. I think as leaders, we tend to be always telling or always thinking we have to be the ones responsible for telling them what to do, where to go, how to do it, when to do it, as opposed to laying the groundwork and the framework, but also empowering them so that they can then go and do the exact same thing we can do. Because that's what's going to make this thing explode. That's what makes churches explode, teams explode. It's what separates the difference between being good and great, or winning versus winning a championship.
Thank you very much.
That was very good. Got me thinking. I remember the first time I approached Francisco, it was pretty much because I'm not married, I don't have children, so I said I want to be around kids. So that was, I guess, my why, but it's not. It sounds now like a selfish why, because it should have been, was I want the kids, to learn more about God and to have a proper direction.
It's a great why, though. But I would say, think of it from your perspective. You love kids, obviously, and you're not married, but I imagine, do you want kids someday? Is that why it was?
I can't have.
You can't. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to hear that, but it makes sense that you would want to surround yourself with the ones who maybe bring joy and happiness into your life. That's amazing. So you have the power to think of the impact that you could possibly have. I mean, I don't know you. I met you 20 minutes ago, but I'm saying this to you because what an amazing blessing God's put in your life, that He has said, I'm putting you before 10 women who literally become your children, who you have the ability to witness to role model, to grow, to inspire, to lead in a manner that only you could do. That's probably a perspective you probably thought about.
And then I think, oh my God, really?
Yeah. But that's what's amazing. It's what I loved about what Keith said this morning in regards to, the vision. Maybe like we can't put limits on what God can do. And in business, we call, people call it entrepreneurship. And an entrepreneur is defined as, someone who has the ability to entertain absurd ambitions. And so if you take the entrepreneur that you are in this organization and the gift that you've been given in terms of your position with these 10 girls, and realize that you've been blessed with such an amazing opportunity to take these people to an end result simply by making a 2mm shift in the way you speak to them and the way that they speak to you and the activities you put them through. Your generational impact is going to be exponential as a result of that. That's you're here for a really specific reason. Do you have a similar story?
Yeah, my why, it's so funny because I don't know if I've ever wanted to have children. I'm not one of those women that was just like, I have to be a mom. I'm like, I can live with them, I can live without them, type of thing. And I love being able to give them back. And I think kids are great, whatever, but I never felt like, oh my God, I do not. I've never felt like I want that responsibility. I'm like, I don't want that responsibility because it's huge, But I've always, I look at girls, and it's girls usually that, here living in New York City, you see girls from all walks of life. I remember in junior high school, and I think this probably is what did it. There was a girl in my junior high school who was pregnant, and I just couldn't understand it. I'm like, I'm not even interested in boys. I just don't understand it. And it rocked my young world, to see a pregnant girl in my junior high school.
Yeah.
And so I've always looked around me, and now more than ever, there are a lot of young mothers, and it actually devastates me. And it breaks my heart. And then after coming to Christ,
your heart too.
and then after coming to the Lord, and then I really felt like the Lord was like speaking to me, and the other people who were doing youth ministry here, I've spoken to them because I really felt like I have something, like you don't know what you have to give, but you have something to give. You have to, because I'm like, I never went in that direction, and I'm like, come on, because you don't have to go in that direction. And I know that God just like laid it on my heart. And then when I came to Francisco, and then there was a post in the bulletin again, and I'm like, I've got to do this again, because I talked to the other ministers and they never got back to me. And, it's just like, come on, people. And because I really feel like we have an obligation. I know that I have an obligation to the next generation. And I'm an aunt. And I love being an aunt. And I'm like, I know, I'm like, I'm not called to be a parent, but I know my calling is to be an aunt, because I've always been able to get kids to trust me.
So it's amazing. But so what are both of yours, if you can? Are you good on time, by the way?
We're good.
Okay. In terms of your immediate, if you could wave a magic wand and your 10 girls could, it's 30 years from now, what is it that you would hope for them in terms of?
I want them to do and be the best that they can be, because I grew up poor and I had too many obstacles in my way and no one really to speak to, and I want them.
Have you ever told anyone that? Parents, kids? Have you ever told them that?
I don't want to cry.
It's okay.
No. Just very directions.
But
No,
by the
I
way,
never did.
This is your why.
Yeah.
This is your why. You're literally faith. That's it. You don't have to go into it any deeper than you don't want to. But I'm telling you right now, you just discovered it. When you start telling people, why are you a youth leader? Why is it you do what you do? And you go there, you're telling me the reason you sell life insurance. And that's the truth. And I'm telling you right now, like, my whole world changed around you just now because of that reason. I
just want them not to have the obstacles, not to think that they cannot achieve what they want. All the time I had to do it on my own. I never had someone there encouraging me. It was me on my own. I went to look for scholarships. I graduated from NYU only debt-free. I did not take out any loans. I refused to take out
goosebumps
loans.
all over my body.
So it was just me asking questions about, I got into a youth program for the summer youth program, and where I was assigned to work, I just worked and kept asking, how did you get here? What did you do? And one of the girls gave me an application and said, do you want to apply for NYU? And I'm like, me? NYU? I would never go. And it was someone like her who helped me get the application, helped me fill it out, helped me with my essays.
What was her name?
I got it. Frances and Joyce Howard, who worked at the facility. And I graduated. Like I said, debt-free. I don't own anything, And I was the first in my family. So I want to be like that person.
You get to be Frances and Joyce Howard to 10 girls. That's unbelievable. What a gift. You probably, and I'm just guessing, but you probably see girls in that group that don't have, they probably lose perspective from time to time. And they don't realize what they might have in front of them as an opportunity or what they don't have.
Yeah. Probably
Frustrates you. I imagine it would frustrate me knowing what you went through, but
it hurts like when one of them said she wanted to run away, that time that the parent approached me in the bathroom, and I was like, if I can just speak to her, like there's so much opportunities. Like I couldn't believe when I heard those things, and I knew we weren't equipped to really address that directly, but those things, it did bother me. I guess she felt like she needed to, hide from her mother and father and be, lying and just, saying one thing here in church, but then she was doing something else once she left. And I wanted to feel like she can talk to me if she wanted to, but I didn't know how to approach her and to say to her, talk to me, you can do it. Like things are possible. Don't fall in this trap. I came out of nowhere.
So, I mean, I didn't expect this at all.
I got my therapy session.
I know. It's crazy.
This is not what press is going to be.
No, but look, this is honestly, it's kind of breakthrough because you're proving the point. If this is a place you're comfortable going, and I would tell you, even if you don't recognize that it is, I'm telling you, it should be a place you're comfortable going.
I'm comfortable in the youth. It's another story about upstairs.
It's okay. It's all right. But here's the reason why, you need to make sure that story is told, and told in a way that is true and authentic and real to, especially the kids, really to the kids. If they haven't heard that, like a really deep version, man, I met a lady last week who owns a matchmaking company. She literally specializes in finding love for men and women. That's her thing. And she was like, I can't break through. I'm really struggling. And I said, well, tell me about why do you do this? She's like, I just love making people happy. I love connecting people, and I love seeing that spark go off when it goes off. I just really enjoy being part of that. Yeah. But why do you like doing that? And I just kept digging and digging and digging and digging. And it came back to she had cancer when she was 22 years old. It was within 6 months of dying. And through that process realized that the most important thing in the world is love and human connection. Spent her life's work on that point and making sure everybody else could feel it. And I was like, it's unbelievable. You just told me the reason why you do what you do. Those kids need to hear it. Upstairs needs to hear it. They need to see that vulnerability in you, because I guarantee you, when you start to let people see that side of you, the impact that you're going to have will be 50 times greater than it could be otherwise. And I mean that sincerely. I've been part of a lot of these kinds of discussions. I've never seen anyone like, I don't even know you. I feel like I want to be your best friend right now. I'm serious. That's unbelievable. I mean, but the thing is, we all have, in my opinion, we all have stories like that. We all have reasons like that. Maybe not as unbelievable, because for you it took guts, strength, courage, tenacity, and unwillingness to say no. All of these things that
my background, my family,
all these things that these kids, those qualities these kids can feed off of. And when they see that in you, their perspective of you changes. Then they don't want to become your ambassador. They want to feed off of you. They want what you want. That's how great leaders inspire us.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like you look at my sister and everything went the other way with her. She lived in the streets. She got pregnant at a young age. It's like we lived in the same household, but yet I continued this way. I continue living for God. Her life is still street life.
Man.
So it's different. It's just different.
What's your background? Where are you from?
My family from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So my mom's highest education was, 10th grade. That was it.
And you're an NYU grad, debt-free.
Yes. First one to go to a private university. My older brother went to City College, but I was the first one. Yeah. And whatever I try to see, I want, and I go for it. That's how I ended up at the Latin Grammys. I am billboards. I work those events. I sit at home and I'm like, I want to do that. And
So what do you do now?
I do accounting for Sesame Workshop, but I volunteer for different award shows. Like I just ran to the Tribeca Film Festival, came back, but I look for something, I volunteer, I try to get in, I figure out a way.
And you speak Spanish?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We'll talk after this. Francisco knows why, but we'll talk after this. I mean, can I just tell you, that was a crazy blessing for me. You have no idea, because I had nothing to do with it. I'm just saying that for you to even.
Well, your words did say.
But for you to
you
go.
Made me cry.
But for you to go there, it is like God has come down to you. He has said, you are so unique and so special and so gifted and so incredibly talented in all of the things you fought through, and you're now in a position to impact and inspire a group of extremely impressionable young women who are at the exact age you were at when you could have gone the way your sister went or the way you went.
Yeah.
And you've got experience. You're not sitting up on an ivory tower telling them, "Oh, do this, do that." They'll look at you and be like, "What do you know?" Mm-hmm. You sit down with them and tell them that story. Then every time you give anyone advice, it comes from it's heard by a different ear. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. Okay. I would do that. Man, that was awesome. Thank you for that gift.
Chris made me cry.
Sorry.
I'm remembering church.
I really need to introduce you to my wife, because she is plugged into that whole universe, and you guys need to connect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you definitely need to connect.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about it when we adjourn. I'll talk to you about it. Okay. You're probably tight on time.
Well, we have another 10 minutes, and I think it'll be well spent just to look at the rest of the year.
I was gonna see if we could get you to do the same.
I have a couple minutes. I would say we can venture a couple minutes. At least for me, I'm having also a very strong reaction because I remember when I first came, or I first had the offer to work here, and I had been working with this youth ministry in Connecticut where things are pretty easy going, and there's no real struggle for the minds, the hearts of youth in general. I mean, I was living in a town where many people are born and they retire, and the path is fairly easy. And I had a dream, and in this dream, I knew it was sent by God. I'm one of millions just walking down this path, and it's all monochromatic. And this light comes down, and no one wants to cross into this light, but it's right in front of me. I'm in the front row, and those who are before me have continued on down the path. And I decide I'm going to do it. So I walk into the light, and suddenly, I'm not in color, but now I'm in grayscale. Like I'm wearing a black hooded sweatshirt, black or gray jeans, and I have black shoes on, and I see God in this dream, and I'm in heaven, and I just want to stay there. But all of a sudden the light collapses, and I fall, and I'm falling back to earth. And I had this moment of decision to make, like, well, I'm going to be there, so what am I going to do when I hit the ground? And so as I'm falling, I make this choice that others need to cross into the light and know and see what I've seen. And so instead of falling, free fall backwards, with arms flailing, I turn and I start to dive headlong, toward the earth, like a skydiver, like a Navy SEAL doing a halo jump, just like charging at the ground, like I can't wait to get there. And I land on that same path that I was on, and there's still millions behind and millions ahead, in this tide of people just walking all together, and when I land, no one takes notice of me. Like there's this impact, and then I stand up, and I know that I've been called to walk against the tide and to push against it. And that's what I've always been made for. I'm never one to just accept things the way they are and say that's how it's going to be and I'm going to go along with it. So I put on my hood and I just start walking against the tide. And the people just, go past me. And as I'm walking, I see another hood turn. And another hood turn, and another, and we just start to change the tide. And eventually, at the end of this dream, I've been walking against the tide, all the hoods are turning until it's almost like there's nowhere for the people who want to go the way that they're just going can go. There's no way they can ignore it, the tide that's going against it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this moment at the end. We've gone through, all the people have gone past, and there's just us all in the black hoods standing there. And we look at each other, and there's just this smile we give one another that we've all seen and know the same thing in the same way. And we did it. And then these shafts of light come down and we all ascend in like comic book fashion.
Right.
And that was when I made the decision to come to New York. To be in a place where I could be what God made me to be. And to not be distracted by trends. To not be intimidated by institutions. To not be to be dauntless.
Turn the tides.
Turn the tide.
It's an awesome story, man. It's a real story. It's a dream. It's a real.
And part of it's to
awesome.
Is to find those who will turn that tide with me.
Yeah.
And to lead it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always say that because everyone in the room has various strengths. I can see clearly strong people. And I think I now know why you said the leadership is unique and different here. I get that. When you start to analyze your strengths, especially when you want to make the impact that you just said you want to have, there's always one truth to be always cognizant of, and that's to never let your strengths become the anesthesia for awareness. Basically means, in short, is you know what it is you're really good at. In order to really turn the tides, you have to really know what you're bad at. And then when you become aware of those things, because I don't know about you, but like if I take a business sense, my total weak point, finance. I'm awful. Consider accounting. It's just bad. I run from numbers like you wouldn't believe. I told Francisco this morning I lost 9 pounds. He said, "Oh, so that's 20% of your goal." I said, "No, that's 10% of my goal." He's like, "No, you told me you needed to lose X. This is 20%." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "Man, it's Sunday. There's no math allowed on Sundays. It's bad. I don't like it. I can do it, but I don't like it. And I'm strong in other areas, but too often I let my strengths become anesthesia. It numbs my awareness, and I'm not aware of my weaknesses or my the things that I need to focus on. Turning tides requires a maniacal focus on the weakness, or you won't do it. It's the number one quality of a great leader is someone who can fill their weakness. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is for you, the ministry, or anyone else. This is the process, man. This is how going from saying we want to be the best ministry in New York to actually doing, which was the whole crux of Pastor Boyd's conversation this morning, which I think was providential in that.
I know my weakness.
Hit me so hard. What do you think it is?
I lose people in the mission.
People
Relationships.
People take their hood off and turn around, go the other way.
No, I'll get too far out ahead, or I'll be insensitive to their needs, or I'll just assume we agree or we're united and press on to the detriment of the relationship.
You know the game of football at all?
Right.
So I played offensive line.
Right.
An offensive lineman's job is to protect the quarterback. So when a play commences, the ball is snapped, Tom Brady takes 3 steps back. The offensive lineman has to take 3 steps back before the play can move forward. You don't lose people. It's awareness. So you become a victim of your own brilliance when you have this mission and you're focused and you want to go and get after it, and all of a sudden you realize, oh crap, I've left 15 people in my dust because I'm moving at lightning speed and I've got this vision, this mission. That means you're a solo mission. That's not the way this works. The way it works is awareness. I have 3 people to my left and 3 people to my right that need to be with me on this thing, and we're not going to get to where we need to go. I have to pull my own throttle back. This is an awareness thing, man. You don't lose people. It's an awareness of your own personal surroundings. That's easy to fix because that's literally just opening your eyes. That's simple. That's strengths becoming anesthesia for awareness. And that to me, it's typically that way. It's not always that way, but it's typically the way that most of the time when a leader says, like, man, I just can't get people to follow me on this thing, or I get people that they're following left and right. It's typically because it's typically because they weren't aware to the why of the person next to them. You need to be. In fact, you're now aware. Did you know that story, by the way?
I did, but I didn't know how closely connected it was to her time here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. This is what we're kind of talking about here. It's so cool that we kind of have an intimate setting, but this is all of the stuff that gets done before. It's so easy to just do what you do what you've always done. Hoodie up, head down, march. If you want to come with me, turn around and come. That's easy. That's what everyone else does. But everyone else doesn't want to be the #1 youth ministry in New York City. Or they might want to, but they have no clue how. We should all hope that in the kingdom and with what we're doing, that every youth ministry has the same vision and goal that you do. I would hope they do. The question is, are they taking the right steps? Are they empowering the right people? Are they working in a manner to where they really understand each other? This is why championship. This is why my sort of sports psychology in me comes out, because I can relate this to my athletic background easily, right? You got to work together. You got to, you have to know each other's assignments. You have to, to be reliable. All those things. But this is real world. This is your job. This is your life and passion. And the way those things work is having an awareness. You now have it. You now have it. You've always had it. It's almost just like you've just recognized it. In that 2 seconds, you made a 2 millimeter shift, as did you. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is cool stuff, man. I'm excited. I'm excited about this youth ministry.
How do you, because Francisca knows.
Thank you once again for listening to this breakthrough session with Chris Valletta. We hope it has been encouraging and informative for you. And we pray God bless you and your family. Until next time.